All right, here we go. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Brittany Jennings with the Seniors Blue Book. And this afternoon, I am joined by Renee Wright of Lutheran Services Florida. Good afternoon, Renee.
Hey, how are ya?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you today?
Good to be here. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. It's always fun to hang out with you, as we almost do, not on the daily, but at least a few times a week on here, right?
That's right, we do. Sometimes for long periods of time.
I think you were my first quarantine buddy. We connected from week 1, and now we've been through this together this is week 11 of being working from home.
That just sounds so crazy.
I know.
Wow.
So tell us a little bit about Lutheran Services Florida before we get into our topic today. Is going to be preventing, protecting, and reporting elder abuse.
Yes. Lutheran Services Florida, it's LSF Adult Advocacy Program. We are a guardianship and case management program, and even through all of the COVID, we've remained busy. Our caseworkers, like all the frontline people, have been out there working, trying to visit as many clients as we can, those that are in their own homes still. We're still doing monthly visits, if not more often, and our clients that are in ALS and nursing homes, we're setting up tablets so that we can communicate with them as well as for the nursing homes. So we're continuing to stay busy and be active in the community, and just continuing to look for referrals for those that are in need. And some of what we're talking about today kind of fits into that profile of why someone might be in need for a guardian or case management company if they find themselves in a situation like those that we might be talking about today.
Absolutely. Well, you certainly cover, there's so many services that Lutheran Services Florida offers, LSF, now I'll call it for short. And I know I've learned so much about your organization just from being on the ambassador board of LSF. It's an awesome experience, and to get to know you and everybody behind LSF is incredible. So we'll definitely promote your guys' information after we talk about the topic today, so that people can reach out to you for the number of services that you offer.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into it. Elder abuse, it's a touchy subject. It's obviously one of those that nobody likes to have to kind of talk about. It's one of those things that we have to talk about, though. And I know from working in senior living communities and helping people find communities, that it is a topic that needs to be addressed, and people need to know how to protect themselves, how to prevent it, and also, of course, how to report it. Because I remember in the community setting, a lot of people were afraid to report that this abuse, whatever type of abuse it was, whether it was neglect, exploitation, or some sort of actual abuse physically. So let's I'm going to hand this over to you, and let's get into the topic, and tell us a little bit about elder abuse and what we can do.
What you were just saying, there's 1 in 24 is estimated that only 1 in 24 cases of abuse are ever reported to the proper authorities, which is a scary fact when we know that prior to COVID, at least 1 in 10 were abused. So that's prior to COVID. Now they're thinking that we could be up as high as 1 in every 6 elder could be abused in the United States, which is a scary statistic because, and the reason for that is because people aren't making home visits like they were. Meals on Wheels aren't making visits like they were. People aren't visiting their neighbors like they were. There's not as much interaction going on because of the social distancing. And that's one of the things that I was going to talk about today. It was really who the World Health Organization came out in March and started calling it, instead of social distancing, physical distancing. And that word makes such a huge difference, because we don't want our elders or our older adults to be social distance. We want them to be physical distance away from the virus, but not socially distant. Because when they're socially isolated and distant, that leads and creates to the scenarios that puts them most vulnerable, that leads to abuse and exploitation and those sort of things. So we want to, that's one word that I'm really going to start using a lot. Instead of saying social, I'm going to start using physical, because to me, if we are active and calling our elders and staying on top with them and and making sure, through the virtual phone calls and chats and there's so many different ways that we can stay in their life without being physically right there. Yeah, it's one of the things that's leading to some of the additional abuse is because like caregivers are afraid to be physically close to them because they're afraid of contaging, being contagious and taking them something. And so they're neglecting them, not intentionally. So now we have the neglect built in. But then you also have things that our caregivers are becoming so overwhelmed with what's going on, with them being physically distanced themselves, as well as losing their jobs and becoming financially, isolated, and having children at home that they're having to homeschool now that they've never done before and having to take care of them. And so it becomes such a strain on those relationships that it's leading to additional violence in homes where there may not have been, because it's leading to, at times, additional alcohol or drug abuse or mood disorders or mental disorders that were not present before because people are becoming depressed. And so then they're taking it out on our elders because they're our most vulnerable. It's just those things that we really have to be careful of. One of the other statistics that I've recently read is it's not just the physical and the mental and the sexual and all those abuses, but the abuses that we could be experiencing is these abuses could also lead to even more lethal type of situations, because in the beginning, when we became social distancing, everybody made a run on food and basic needs and necessities, but they also made a run on ammunition and guns and those types of things. And so, it's very likely that we could see more and more of those types, not just from suicide, but also from other situations where people are becoming overwhelmed and out of control. And so that's where we have to really do our due diligence and take close attention and really stay on top with our seniors. Call them, do that impromptu telephone call where it's not scheduled, so that maybe if there is an abuser that is in the home, maybe they're not there at that time period, and you can really get some true information from that client or from that elder that you're working with. That's just one of the, I always say that we have to remember, first and foremost, that we all play such an important role in protecting our seniors that it's critical that we do that. And one of the other things that I say is we must not let the out of sight mean out of our mind. There are our older adults really need us, and we can't not think about them because we're physically distancing. We have to remember that social component still needs to be there, not physical, because we're not allowed to do that in most instances, but that social component can absolutely be there. So, ways to protect it is to just stay diligent, watch over them, be there for them, make those phone calls as our caregivers, reach out to the caregivers. If you have an elder that is a client of yours and they have a caregiver, a family member that's like, reach out to them, make sure they're doing okay. They have to take care of, it's called self-care as well. The caregivers have to take care of themselves as well as the others. Maybe there's a way that they can have a respite or something so that they're not becoming so overwhelmed with everything that's going on in their life as well. Those are just some quick things. Do you have other things that you're thinking about, or questions that as we talked about that? I can't hear you.
It helps if I unmute myself, right?
Yes.
So protecting. So as far as protecting, when I think of elder abuse, obviously I think about the fact that people need to be able to understand that it's okay to report it. And because, again, working in senior living communities, I know that something would happen, and whatever the situation was, I would go to investigate it, and they would say, but I don't want to get this person in trouble, or I'm afraid of how they might treat me after I report this. And I think people just need to understand that, again, whatever type of abuse that we're talking about, again, whether it's neglect, somebody was supposed to come in and give you a shower at your community or your home, and something happens with even something like that, it's okay to report it, and it's okay to express your feelings on what's happened. And so I think that's a big thing, is just like you have permission to be able to be your own advocate, or if you're a family member. I again remember in senior living communities, with my experience, sometimes their parent would tell them something that had occurred at the community, and again, whether they felt comfortable or not talking about it, the resident, the family can also report it, and it can be anonymous as well. Again, whether it's in-home care, whether it's a caregiver at an assisted living, whether it's your own family member, you're being taken advantage of, there's money being taken, whatever it might be, report it. Take that next step for yourself or for your loved one, just to make sure that it doesn't happen again to that person or to somebody else. Prevent it from, report it so that it prevents from other people being in harm's way.
One of the biggest things that we hear when doing and dealing with elder abuse in the environment is that the person that is being abused or neglected or exploited, more so in the exploitation than it is in the others, but even in all of it, they're ashamed to report it. They are embarrassed over the fact that they were taken advantage of, or that they were abused, or that they were neglected. They feel like it's their fault, and it's not their fault, but they feel like it's their fault, and so therefore they become embarrassed or ashamed, and that holds them back from reporting it also. And that's part of the education that we kind of get out there, is that there's no reason for them to feel ashamed, and we need to teach our elders that there is nothing for you to be ashamed about. These are people that prey on other people in a lot of instances, and a lot of times it's just flat family that has lost control, especially in neglect and those sort of situations. It's because they've become so overwhelmed trying to take care of their loved one, a lot of times, that they don't even realize that they've gone down the slippery slope of neglect. One of the examples that since COVID started is, they, again, what I was just talking about, they're afraid to go near them because they're afraid of giving them something and making them even sicker. Or they've got the children at home, so they're having to homeschool the children, and they, homeschooled through lunch and forgot to feed the elder, or forgot to feed the parent that they're trying to take care of, and trying so hard to treat them with the dignity and respect, but they just get so wrapped up in things that are going on. Or they're having to go out, and those frontline workers that are working, hours upon hours upon hours protecting everyone else, and then they wind up in a situation where they're so exhausted when they walk in the door that they just collapse. So that's, again, where we all come into play, where we have to help, and we have to reach out, and we have to do our part to help everyone in the community, so that we don't leave our older adults behind, and we don't forget about them.
I think one thing too to bring up is to be aware of the types of abuse, and so whether it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional or psychological abuse, which I'm going to come back to in just a minute, neglect, abandonment, financial abuse, or even self-neglect is actually a considered elder abuse. So I want to talk for 1 second just about the psychological and emotional abuse, because I think a lot of times, and I'll give some examples, people almost don't realize they're being abused. So whether it's barring access to resources, somebody is in need of something, in need of a medication, or in need of care, and somebody is blocking, I'll use the word blocking, or if it's insulting, isolation, that's like you talked about, it's a huge one right now, is how, in communities and even at home, like how we're keeping people from not feeling isolated, although we're socially or physically distancing. Humiliation, intimidation is a big one, or name calling, threats. Those are some of the psychological and emotional abuse that people may not be aware of, but those are considered abuse for anybody, for any humankind, but especially for elders. So those are just a few of the types of abuse to be aware of. Financial exploitation is a huge one in our industry. We have to truly, I'll give a perfect example of when I was working at a senior living community in St. Petersburg. Unfortunately, there was a gentleman who had an adult daughter that was very active in his life, came in the office smiling, got him moved in, everything was great. A year later, come to find out, I hadn't seen this daughter of this family member, and she had actually literally taken everything to his name and put it into her account and literally fled the state. They had no idea where she was. And so it's, you know, and to have to be left with that and have to help this gentleman and figure out what his next steps were, it was just heartbreaking. And so I think, again, just to be aware that whether it's a family member, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a third party. It can be your own family sometimes, and it's extremely sad.
And on those lines, you were talking about with the psychological and the abuse and stuff like that, and not getting the proper things that they need. Right now, that's a big part of this, what could be going on in some of these homes that we're not aware of, because people are being fired or being let go from their jobs because there are no jobs, and so they're running out of finances and resources. So the first place a lot of times that gets cut is that medication that may cost, you know, $100 to refill, or the proper food that elder adult might need, or you know, I mean, the list can go on and on and on. And you find yourself, even with the elders that are by themselves, when, you know, they're finding that maybe they're not getting the income that because things are getting costing more, or because they're having to have delivery. And I know there's a lot of places that are doing free delivery for groceries and things like that, but some of our elders don't know about that. A lot of them don't know about that. As much as we're trying to educate them, they don't know. So they're paying these exorbitant amounts. And the scammers are actively attacking our elders. It is hugely, I mean, there's so much of it going on that our elders are being exploited constantly by people that are trying to scam them. Delivering, you know, oh yeah, we'll deliver your groceries for you for X amount of dollars, and they never deliver them. You know, or they deliver part of it, and oh, we'll have to bring the rest back, and then they never show back up. So they're losing their money, and so it's becoming a critical situation for a lot of the elders in the community. And again, that's why we have to help educate about the resources that are available and that are out there for them, that there are free services. I mean, you've had a number of them on Senior Blue Book that they've been, you know, doing free services for the elders and helping them get those deliveries and stuff to them. So we just have to stay diligent, all of us in this community, with making sure that they are aware of what resources they have available, both to cover them and protect them from the abuse, and to protect them and help them moving forward.
Exactly. And I'm going to share my screen real quick because I want to share, we talk about resources. So what if you are in this situation where either yourself or you have a loved one or a friend, a neighbor, whoever it might be, that is experiencing any of these types of abuse? So how do you go ahead and report that? So I'm going to share my screen because I do have the information pulled up here. And Renee can also help. And there's actually several ways you can report it, but I kind of give people this phone number. This is probably the easiest way right here to make a report, which is 1-800-96-ABUSE, 1-800-962-2873. And Department of Elder Affairs, of course, that's who, when I was working in a community setting, we would reach out to make that initial report. And then they are the ones that determine, you know, kind of the next steps. And I'm sure right now, just like the rest of the world, everybody's steps are a little bit different because of COVID-19, but everybody is taking abuse very seriously still at this point, reporting everything to this number. And Renee, what are the other options for people if they do want to report?
Some of the other options, especially if you feel that this person is in imminent danger, like immediate danger, or could be in real danger, you need to call the police. You need to call 911 and report it. You can call Adult Protective Services. You can call DCF. Those are all good avenues. And again, you can call the Elder Abuse Hotline. But the one thing to always remember, if you think that someone is in imminent danger, please call 911 and get help immediately. Don't let them sit there, and don't wait for one of the other agencies to get there, because again, we want to protect our seniors, and we don't want to see any of them you know, in a bad situation or in the hospital. You know, they could be. I mean, I read an article just this past week that a son literally beat his father and put him in the hospital because he became so overwhelmed he couldn't handle life. And the injuries on this poor man were incredible just because he couldn't handle what he was going through. So he took it out on his father, which was like 79 years old, 80 years old. I mean, can you imagine being in that situation where you're 80 years old and you're being physically beaten? I couldn't imagine it at my age, much less at 80 years of age. I mean, you have
Absolutely. And by your son at that, you know,
right.
A family member.
Exactly. And you have to be thinking my life is flashing before me. And yet, so that's where we have to come into play, because I'm sure there were signs that that son was starting to experience and show. I know we're not out in the public, but somebody had to be talking to him. Somebody had to be communicating with him. You know, pick up on those little signs and those, you know, somebody starts talking about, I'm overwhelmed, I just can't handle this anymore, or, you know, starts talking about depression or suicide or those sort of things, or, you know, I have a gun, or you need to take it serious. And you really all need to take those kind of situations very serious.
Absolutely. And we all, you know, working in this industry, we all have a duty. I mean, the moment that I remember I stepped into the senior living industry, we all had to go through a training initially of many things, but one of those was elder abuse and reporting it and making sure that if somebody entrusts that information with you, that you have a duty and you have a job. If you see something that's not right, doesn't feel right, to make sure you protect that person, that individual. And so I think, you know, again, going back to if people are kind of jumping onto the call now, this is Renee. She's with Lutheran Services Florida. We're talking about elder abuse. And again, it's not a topic that is bright and, you know, sunny sky type of conversation, but it's one we have to have. And I wanted to do this today because on June 15th it's National Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And so it's lifting up the voices of those that that haven't been heard and encouraging those that if you are in a situation where it's not safe and you do feel like you are being, again, whether it's financially, if it's sexually, if it's physically, whatever that might be, please reach out to somebody, even if it's somebody in the industry that you feel comfortable with, if it's a family member or a friend. And we just highly encourage you to act on your behalf or somebody else's to make sure this is reported and taken care of so it doesn't occur anymore to that person or to anybody else.
And actually, not to correct you, but I am. It's World Elder Abuse Awareness Day.
Yes, thank you.
It's the entire world, which should say something. You know, when you have one day set aside throughout the entire world that is aimed at elder abuse, it should tell you what kind of a problem that we have on top of a pandemic that the world is already dealing with. And this isn't something that just started. This has been going on for a number of years. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think President Reagan started this. So that's how long this has been going on. So, I mean, this is a big deal on June 15th. And, you know, if you have them, put out purple pinwheels in your yard, in front of your business. You know, that kind of symbolizes that we're all in this together and we're all here to support, you know, our elders and to try to make sure that they are safe and secure in whatever environment they're in. You know, I mean, I know the ALF and the facilities are overwhelmed right now. And I know that they're, you know, dealing with so much between the virus and just their normal everyday things. And we need to be there to support them. And I know there's a lot of things, I mean, like Feed the Front that a lot of the organizations have been doing. I know you've been involved in that, you know, where we're actually going out and feeding those frontline workers to give them a break, to give them some positive feedback, and to let them know that we're there to help and support them. So if they become overwhelmed, please reach out, you know, because we don't want to see you wind up in that position where you're becoming that overwhelmed caregiver that now could be talking down to one of your clients or a situation like that. So there's so many things that's going on right now. We just need to reach out and to be a part of it.
Exactly. And you brought up another, my last point for this video is you talked about, staff members getting, whether it's burned out, exhaustion, whatever it might be, and that could affect their, let's just say, energy or their spirit. And so for those that are at home and you're a caregiver of somebody who has dementia, Alzheimer's, some type of memory impairment, or somebody who does suffer from Parkinson's, it's a full-time job. It's a 25-hour, 8-day-a-week, I say, job. And there are resources out there that are available to you, support groups that are virtual. I'm doing one tomorrow morning with Inspired Living, and it's all their families around the US that are, that are not able to go in and see their loved one in the community, or just, again, people that are interested in a little bit of support and resources. Parkinson Place, they have online classes, whether it's educational support group, also the like therapeutic type of exercises, and same with Neuro Challenge. So there are resources. That's what we do. That's what we breathe every day, whether it's us at Blue Book or Renee. We're all in this to be able to help provide those resources to make your quality of life and your quality of spirit, I'm going to coin that term right now, to be better, and to be able to have somebody to reach out to and say, hey, I'm exhausted. I can't do this anymore. I'm getting more angry. I'm getting more upset. What can we do to help? And so that's what we're saying is we're here for you, and please make sure to protect yourself and your loved ones at all costs. And again, I'll share this information on the post about the 1-800-96 abuse hotline and the other ways that you can report it or reach out. As Renee said, if there's an emergency and something is happening acutely, in the moment, or you see that happening, you can call 911 and have somebody come over and assist you.
Great. As usual, another great segment.
Yeah, awesome. So thanks again for being here today, Renee. Really appreciate you, and always your intelligence and education on all these topics. I'll make sure to include everything, like I said, about LSF in the post, so people can reach out to you. Any last words of wisdom?
Just stay diligent, and keep your head up, and know that there are people out there to help each and every one of us, and don't get depressed. Try to keep your spirits up. Try to look for respite. Try to look for ways. Get out and take a walk around the block. Get your loved one out and help them take a walk around the block. Get up and do some stretching exercises. I know you have Lori on with moving and grooving. Get up and do some moving and grooving.
I saw her watching actually a little bit ago. I don't know if she still is. Yeah, Lori. If anybody is looking for an exercise where you will smile and sing and you kind of dance and you move your whole body, Lori's moving and grooving is awesome.
Brightens your spirits,
It does.
Just something as simple as that for 15 minutes can really change your day. Start your day off with something like that. It will take some of the stress of what's going out of your day. Maybe you won't be as inclined to talk to that elder and with a tone in your voice, it might just ease it a little bit. So just think about, again, there's so many ways that you can do those things. So just try to look for the resources. Come to us. We have them, all of us. We're in this together.
Absolutely. All right, my friend. Well, I will be seeing you soon via Zoom. Thanks everybody for watching. And if you feel like somebody that would benefit from watching this, please share it or send them this video. We're happy. We're here for you, and just let us know what we can do for you. And have a beautiful and blessed rest of your Wednesday. I had to think what day of the week it was.
It is Wednesday. Thank you for having me.
All right, I'll see you soon.
You too. Bye.